fictional crush. Okay, I actually have some answers for this, and they are all anime men after I've finished roasting Daryan's favorite book. Now that is a ridiculous question. How could I possibly answer that accurately? And every single book has been a banger. I usually don't cry at books, but this time I did, and I did it live on the live stream. So my answer has got to Rachel, this is Let Me in the Library, and today we're going to do the mid-year book tag. So, a couple things. Number one, I know it's not the middle of the year. I'm very much a proponent of do whatever you want, when you want to. You're not hurting anybody, just do it. So, I don't care about time. Number two, you may have noticed I'm not wearing my usual glasses. Some people have asked me to do some more filming outside, so I just tried to. I put contacts in, I got sunglasses out, I looked all cute. I went outside to begin filming, and then my phone overheated and was like, absolutely not, ma'am, you will be filming inside. So we're gonna do the mid-year book tag. So the mid-year book tag is a famous tag. You see it a lot on BookTube, and people talk about their 2021 business. The thing is, I don't really do any wrap-ups, so this is gonna be like, wow, Rachel, you read books? I just thought you did TBRs every month, but here we go. I'm going to tell you about some books that I read, things that I think about them. Let's just get into it. So the first question is, what is your favorite book of 2021? And for me, that is an easy answer. I loved it. It's The Swallows. I read this book for the Winers Book Club. It's a story about this new teacher that comes to work at this academy that's sort of in the northeast side of America. And the academy is kind of for like high schoolers, but it kind of has a lot of very college setting vibes to it, so I really enjoyed that. And when she comes to work there, she has a very unusual teaching style where she's much more upfront, but while she's there, she starts to uncover this weird thing that's going on with all of the students. The boys and girls that are in her class have this weird thing where she's not really sure if it's just a rivalry between the genders or if there's actually something more sinister going on. Hint, something more sinister is going on. I loved her, the teacher. She is so great as a character. Lisa Lutz went into each of these different characters' minds and allowed us to see how things played out from those perspectives. So there's definitely a huge trigger warning for sexual assault, for rape, for suicide, and I think that's it, but if I'm mistaken, I will definitely put more trigger warnings on the screen. Definitely it has a lot of dark topics, but I just feel like it's done so well. And my jaw dropped. My whole jaw was on the floor reading this at like 3 a.m. This is one of those books I just stayed up to finish, and wow, oh my god, it just totally blew my mind, and I loved this book so much. So if you have anything to take away from this video, maybe go read The Swallows if you think it's something that you would really enjoy. The next question is, what is the best sequel of 2021? And for me, the answer has got to be Act Your Age, Eve Brown. This is the third book in the Brown Sisters trilogy, which is a romance series, and I absolutely adored this book. For all of the Brown Sisters books, I've really enjoyed all of them, and they progressively got better and better for me, but I guess Eve Brown just really knocked it out of the park. In this case, Eve and her love interest, Jacob, definitely have more tension initially, but I just love both of their personalities. They're so much fun. Eve is very bubbly and happy, and Jacob is more like stern and very like by the book, which is why putting those two together and having them become sort of like rivals to friends to lovers is such a great, wonderful combination, like the grumpy sunshine trope, I guess you could say, but I just loved it so much. And I also really loved the way that this book dealt with adult autism, because Talia Hibbert basically has a situation where a character finds out that they're autistic and is like, oh, I don't have to like tell everybody about this. This is sort of something like I can figure out in my own time, and it's not something I have to like promote to the world right now because I'm already dealing with a lot of stuff. And I just really appreciated that that's what she did, because it doesn't need to be like an extra thing to throw out there and be like, oh my god, now I have to deal with this thing. But the character was able to come to the realization that they were autistic, and then coming to terms with what that meant, and then how that made so much sense for their life. And it was just a really like wonderful, wholesome like conclusion in general for like the book itself, but also just like for that character development. I just really loved that so much. So I really loved this book. I just thought it was so much fun. I gave it 5 stars and I absolutely enjoyed it so much. Question 3 is, what is a new release that you have not read yet? Gear Breakers. I was very kindly gifted this by Steph from Stephanie Bookish. Thanks so much, Steph. The shadow of Godolia's tyrannical rule is spreading, aided by their giant mechanized weapons known as wind-ups. War and oppression are everyday constants for the people of the Badlands. Eris Shindanai is a gear breaker, a brash young rebel who specializes in taking down wind-ups from the inside. When one of her missions goes awry and she finds herself in a Godolia prison, Eris meets Sona Steelcrest, a cybernetically enhanced wind-up pilot. Eris sees Sona as her mortal enemy, but she soon discovers Sona has a secret. She has intentionally infiltrated the wind-up pilot program in order to destroy Godolia from within. Question is, what is your most highly anticipated release for the rest of 2021? So my answer has got to be What is your biggest disappointment of this year? We had to get to this, so I'm very sorry, Daryan, but you already know what I'm about to say. The more I think about this book, the more I look at it, I don't know, like it's a pretty cover, but just the feelings I have about this book, the more that I see it and remember it exists, the more I get upset and I want to unhaul it. Where Dreams Descend is supposed to be like a Phantom of the Opera retelling, where there is a girl who goes to a magical competition for magicians, and she is born with magic so she can do really cool magic, and while she's in the competition she teams up with a mentor, and they work together and do the magic show. But meanwhile she is sort of running from her past because she was part of this house where this guy who had trained her long ago, he seems to be following her around, and maybe he's really there, maybe he's not, like a mirage a little bit, like a phantom, perhaps you might say.
In sleep he sang to me, in dreams he came, that voice that calls to me and speaks my name.
But yes, so that's the situation, that's the story, the premise of this book. The thing is, I really feel like nothing happened in this book. I read the audiobook and I hated it. It was awful. This is 452 pages with the acknowledgements, and this literally could have been a short story because it just went on, and I feel like, especially with the competition, it was kind of like the same exact thing over and over again, where Kalia, the main character, would do this really cool, amazing act, and everyone's like, wow, I can't believe you did that, wow! And then the next day, she would do the same thing, and then they would again be like, oh my god, you're amazing, and then they would just do it again and again and again. I'm like, I can't believe that this is the entire book. You're supposed to have a relationship with the mentor where they kind of have like a rivalry to romance situation. Did nothing for me. I did not care for DeMarco. He was just a very bland character. He was such a sad boy that I couldn't get into it. I couldn't vibe with his character because he just had no personality outside of being sad. I couldn't tell if he liked anything. I couldn't tell if he was his own individual person, but he was just a simp in a bad way. The audiobook narrator for this, the main audiobook narrator, was a woman who kept putting on what sounded like a fake British accent for the entire book. Let me tell you, this is like an 18-hour audiobook, okay? So basically someone is talking in my ear for like 18 hours with a fake British accent. You could guess why I did not have the best reading experience with this book. No hard feelings, I'm not trying to be mean, but I just really didn't enjoy this one, and especially because the ending is supposed to have this huge plot twist or this huge devastating reveal, and it just felt like nothing to me. It felt like episode 3 level shit. It was not like season finale material. It's over now, the music of the night. If anybody wants this copy, please let me know. I will media mail it to you. I just really could get it out of my house at any time. Question 6, after I've finished roasting Daryan's favorite book. Let me move on. So, question 6 is, what was your biggest surprise? I have a couple of answers for this. Number 1 is definitely The Swallows, because I, again, had that jaw drop moment where it was fantastic and I was so blown away. Number 2 would be Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson, because I did not expect a YA thriller to hit like that, and wow, oh my gosh, that was such a great book. This is a story that's about a girl who tries to make it into the industry as a singer, and she is taken under the wing of a famous singer, but he turns out to be a very abusive figure, and he takes her under his wing, but he's awful. And she sort of ignores a lot of the red flags and isn't really able to get out of the situation. And she's just sort of at the whims and mercy of this guy who is really not a good guy, even though he pretends to be a great person and he's very romantic. He has a very dark side, and she is trying to deal with the consequences of that, of being stuck here, which is not her fault, and then also still trying to make it in the industry. The execution of this book was also just phenomenal, and I enjoyed it so much. I did not expect to finish this book in a single sitting, but I did, and wow, such a great book. And I went on to read more of Tiffany D. Jackson's stuff, and every single book has been a banger. So question 7 is, who are your new favorite authors, either debut or new to you? So I don't have any favorite debut authors, but I do have favorite new to me authors, and those would have to be Ken Liu, Amy Tan, and Tiffany D. Jackson. Ken Liu, I read his Paper Menagerie and Other Stories collection, and I absolutely fell in love with it, and after that I just knew I needed to read every single thing that Ken Liu ever wrote. I would highly recommend checking out the LeVar Burton Reads podcast, where he reads one of the short stories, which is called The Paper Menagerie, and he does such a great job of bringing that story to life. As for Amy Tan, I also only read one book of hers, and that was The Joy Luck Club, but I adored it. It was so good. That is probably my other favorite book of 2021. If I couldn't say The Swallows, it would definitely be The Joy Luck Club. I only actually read an unabridged audiobook of it, but I got my hands on the unabridged copy from the library, and I was working through it, and I was like, I cannot believe they abridged this, because the unabridged is so good. And then Tiffany D. Jackson, I have read almost all of her books now. So I read Grown, then I read Monday's Not Coming, and then I read Allegedly. All such good books. Oh my gosh, such a great author, and I can't wait to read more of her stuff. White Smoke is coming later this year, and I definitely cannot wait to read that. Question 8, who is your new fictional crush? Okay, I actually have some answers for this, and they are all anime men. So, number 1, Saitama from One Punch Man. Look at this man. I know he's bald, but I'm in love with him. He just says anything that's on his mind. He doesn't think too hard about stuff. He doesn't care about people's impressions. And he's a handsome guy, don't get me wrong, but I guess just like his personality is so charming and fun and enjoyable that, like, how can your heart not race? He's great. The other answer for this would be Hori. Hori is from Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun. I don't know what it is, I don't know why, but he's just so great, and I literally can't quite put it into words. Question 9 is, who is your new favorite character? So I have a new favorite character as of actually only like a couple weeks ago, and that is Rocky from Project Hail Mary. I don't want to tell you too much about what's going on in Project Hail Mary because almost everything about it is supposed to be a secret from the beginning. It starts out with a character who doesn't even know what his own name is, and he's slowly trying to remember and figure out what he's doing there, and meanwhile he is the only person who can actually save Earth from imminent catastrophe and destruction. This character literally doesn't even know what his own name is, so I wouldn't even want to tell you who Rocky is, if that's him or somebody else. But yeah, definitely my favorite. I love him. If you've read Project Hail Mary and he's not your favorite, I would be really highly surprised, because what a charming, lovable guy. I love him so much. But yeah, definitely my favorite. Question 10 is, name a book that made you cry. I usually don't cry at books, but this time I did, and I did it live on a live stream. And that book was volume 2 of Heartstopper. So I don't have volume 2 with me. I do have volume 1, and I will tell you, volume 1 is great as well. This is a story about Nick and Charlie, who are two boys in high school in London, and they meet and they end up falling in love. Charlie is openly gay, but Nick isn't, and he's slowly starting to realize that maybe he is not straight after all, because he's in love with this boy. And it's a really great, wholesome story, but there are also a lot of heavier topics that we get into in the later books. And there was something in volume 2 with a very tender moment between Nick and his mom, and it really just hit me in a way that I had to cry, and I was just crying in a good way. It made me happy, but it was tender, and oh my god. And then some other things happened in volume 3, and I don't know, I just felt very seen by certain things, and it definitely also made me very emotional. So I love those books, but I was really crying. I was not well, and again, live. The other book I will say made me cry in a more sad way. I did tear up reading Dancing at the Pity Party. So Tyler Fredere is a graphic novelist, and she portrays the entire experience of her losing her mother to terminal cancer and what that's like, because she had an extremely close relationship with her mother, but as her mom got progressively worse and worse, she just sort of began to act very differently, and she didn't really know who everybody was all the time, or she was like very mean all of a sudden. And it just really broke my heart to see how quickly that had changed for her, and also to see how Tyler then had to very quickly deal with this situation, because she went from a couple months ago feeling like everything's fine, everything's normal, I'm going to go off to college, and then a couple months later being like, oh my god, my mom is going to die. And whether you have lost someone very, very close to you or not due to cancer, I think it's still important to read about something like that and understand from an empathetic standpoint what people are going through. Question 11 is, what's the book that made you happy? And this book made me happy and sad, so it's perfect timing. That book is Fox 8. This seems like the cutest, wholesomest book. Why would you ever cry? If you've read this book, you know why. I was laughing my head off on a live stream reading this. I had so much fun. I loved it so much. It's this cute little fox who is telling this story about suddenly encountering humans, and he doesn't really know how to spell, so he just spells based on like the auditory listening to other humans, so it's very like phonetic, but he's so cute, he's so wholesome and soft and wonderful, but as he sees like other humans do like bad stuff, it becomes a more serious book the further you get into it. There are a lot of really cute illustrations, and his speech and like the different observations he made me really happy, and they were really funny and cute, but this definitely has like that bittersweet edge to it. So I really love that anyway, because I do enjoy stories that have like true meaning to them, and this book is the epitome of that. It's so short, but I am so happy to have a copy of it because I absolutely adore it, and I can't wait to read it over and over again. Okay, number 12 is, what are the best books, the most like aesthetically beautiful books that you've bought, purchased, or received this year? So I would have to go with a couple of different answers. First is The Last True Poets of the Sea. I very kindly received this from Mollie from Mind of Mollie. Thank you so much. This is such an adorable, like beautiful, beautiful copy. Like when I saw it, it's just stunning. Like how could you not love this cover? It's gorgeous. It has those leafy greens in the back, and like just the color gradient transition is absolutely gorgeous. So really highly excited about this. I know Mollie absolutely loved this book, so I am excited to read it as well, but just like the cover, oh my gosh. I would also have to say a book that I bought for myself for once was The Ones We're Meant to Find. This is such a beautiful, beautiful copy as well. The spine, it's beautiful. My last answer for this would have to be The Lost Apothecary, which I was gifted by a Jess from Books Past Bedtime. Thank you, Jess. We went to the Strand together, and we actually bought books for each other. She gave me this book, which I'm really excited to read, but it's also just so beautiful. Oh my gosh, look at that. Look at the colors. Look at this. Just look at it. I've just been really wanting to read this for a long time, and the fact that it is so beautiful and it is from Jess is just a double whammy reason to read it more, but really, really happy that I have this. Thank you again, Jess. I'm so happy. The last question that I'm going to be answering is, what are the rest of the books that you need to read in 2021? Now that is a ridiculous question. How could I possibly answer that accurately? I don't know. I didn't even read any of the ones that I talked about in the last mid-year book tag that I did last year. I didn't even read any of those, but I will give you my answers for now. Just a couple of them. So I would like to finally read Scythe. I've been putting this off for the longest time, but Nitty gave me this copy, so I definitely feel like I need to read it and tell her my thoughts. And it has a lot of philosophical commentary about death and what we do as people, and I just really love philosophy, so I think that this would be totally up my alley, and I'm really hoping that I enjoy it, but I just need to actually sit down and read it. Firekeeper's Daughter is a YA thriller that is written by an Indigenous author, and it also features Indigenous characters. I think that the main character meets some guy through hockey, and then she discovers that he's hiding a dark secret, and then somebody gets murdered. So definitely very thrilling, but I've also heard to not read anything about this before you go into it, and I think I don't need to because I have a lot of trusted resources, a lot of friends who really, really love this book, and I trust their opinion, so I definitely know that this is something I want to prioritize. Nine of Swords. Every time I read what it's about, it makes me so excited to read it, and it's an academy setting, it's a military academy, and the students have to compete and try to survive and make it to the end of year games, so it definitely gives me like I don't want to say it's like the Poppy War, but I also don't want to say it's like Monsters University, because those are such different things, but somehow it just gives me both vibes in a way. So yeah, like it's like Monsters University, because those are such different things, but somehow it just gives me both vibes. Like magical military school, but there's trials, and there's like big trial, death trials at the end. The last book that I want to talk about is The Jasmine Throne. I was gifted this by Casey from Casey Can Read, and we decided we definitely need to buddy read this. And I actually have another friend in real life, Tia, who said that she was really interested to read it with us as well. We can probably like read this book, go out to brunch, discuss the book, and it'll just be so cute. It'll be so wonderful. So really excited to read this one as well, just for like the fact that we could have freshly squeezed orange juice and brunch. That's what I want. So yes, there is technically one more question. It is to name all of the creators you've been loving recently. And the thing is, I love everybody that I interact with here online in this community. You all mean the world to me. I'm so happy to have met you and to interact with you all the time. You are awesome. You make me feel so happy, especially during quarantine at a time where we usually are very isolated from one another. You really don't make me feel like I'm alone at all. I definitely feel like I have a family here on BookTube and in the bookish community in general. So thank you so much for being you, for hanging out, for watching the channel, for, you know, just being you. That's it for the mid-year book tag video. Thanks so much for watching it. I know it's not the middle of the year, so thanks for clicking on it anyway, but I hope that you enjoyed this book tag. I hope you enjoyed hearing about some things I actually read for once. I do in fact read. I'm sorry I don't talk about it all the time, but I do in fact read. If you are interested in seeing my thoughts or my ratings on books, you can definitely go check them out on Goodreads, because I do update that regularly. And sometimes those notifications also get pushed over to Twitter, where I talk a lot. So if you want to, you can follow me there, or on Instagram. I do have all of my social media always linked in the description down below, so if you're interested in following me, that's where you should look. Don't forget to give this video a big like if you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Rachel, this is Let Me in the Library, and I'll see you next time. Bye!